Hey guys, what is up? Welcome back to the channel. If it's your first time here, a special welcome to you. Thank you for visiting. Today we are going to talk about investing in Airbnb without owning any property. There is actually a way that you can have cash flow from Airbnb and you don't have to own a single piece of property. Really interesting. This is really exciting to me. With my partner, we're looking into doing this at scale. So let's dive into what this is, what it looks like, and what kind of results you can get from it. Here we go. All right. So investing in Airbnb without buying any property, what does that look like? What does that mean? Well, a lot of people call this Airbnb arbitrage. Arbitrage, let's just read the definition just because it's kind of a fancy word. I didn't know exactly what it meant, but here it is. The simultaneous buying and selling of securities, currencies, or commodities in different markets or in derivative forms in order to take advantage of differing prices for the same asset. Okay, so there's the definition, kind of long-winded, kind of academic, but basically what it means is you're taking an asset that's used one way and you can use it in a different way to make money in the middle. That's the arbitrage point. So this is done in a lot of different businesses. If you think about, say, like what a wholesaler does in real estate, essentially they're kind of the arbitrage in the middle of a deal, bringing a buyer and a seller together, and they make money on that wholesale fee that they charge the end buyer. Hey, and I forgot to mention, make sure you stick around to the end because I have a really interesting tip for you regarding Airbnb arbitrage. All right, back to the video. So what is Airbnb arbitrage? Okay, this is a way that you cannot own a single property and yet make substantial cash flow from this strategy. Let's just say that you're like me, you have no money, no credit score, no experience, no nothing. That's actually not like me exactly, but let's just say you're a person like me. You're a person, right? Okay, good. Let's just say that you can go out and lease a property. It could be any property really, but let's just say it's an apartment and it's $1,000 a month. The landlord agrees to sign a lease with you and you have, let's just call it a year lease to rent this one-bedroom apartment. It's in a good location, close to some amenities. What you can then do, if the landlord allows for it, is to offer it as a short-term rental, either on Airbnb, VRBO, another short-term rental service like those. There's many, but those are the two most popular. And let's just say you can bring in $2,000 a month via the short-term rental method. So you're booking it for 2 to 3 nights at a time, but you're charging more money. What you make is that money in the middle. So sure, you got $1,000 a month as like a regular lease, $2,000 a month as a short-term rental. You're definitely going to have some costs in the middle. There's going to be things like cleaning costs and utilities and Wi-Fi and all that good stuff too. But there's still definitely opportunity in the middle to make, several $100s a month in cash flow, and you don't even have to own the property. Really cool. There are a couple things going on though that makes this a little more difficult. Number one is a lot of municipalities and cities are cracking down on short-term rentals. The reason for this is a little vague. I think part of it could be the hotel lobbying against things like this, and so cities want to protect the hotels that are there, and they're really cracking down on these rentals. Like, for example, here in Madison, Wisconsin, I would not be able to use this strategy in the city proper unless I actually owned and lived in the property. So it's only for owner-occupied units. So if I owned a 2 to 4 unit, lived in one of the units, then I could Airbnb the rest of them if I wanted to. I still have to jump through some other hoops, go through some permits, have inspections, certain things like that, but it's definitely possible. So this isn't going to work necessarily in every market, so you really got to do your due diligence and do your research, find out what markets could work for you. A second downfall to it is the fact that it's kind of like a sublease, and a lot of landlords don't like that. And a lot of landlords don't like the idea that potentially it's going to be kind of a transient tenant in the building. It's not going to be you. So there are some ways to get around that, some ways to educate landlords. Me personally, as long as it was managed correctly, I wouldn't have an issue with it. But We'll talk about that in a little bit. And one of the really cool things about this is how quickly you can scale. I mean, just think about how easy it is to go out, find an apartment, and sign a lease. I mean, you could do that in just a couple days if you're really hustled. And because of the lack of capital needed for this, it enables you to scale even more quickly. So when you're typically buying a rental property, you're gonna put down a chunk of change. It could be $20, $30, $40, $80,000 down on a property, and then that money just kind of sits there and you don't have access to it necessarily. But with something like this, you don't have any money locked up in the property. The only cost you really have is buying furniture for the property and decorating it. That's it. That could be as little as a few $1,000s to get you started in this Airbnb arbitrage space. So with scaling quickly, you can get some cash flow moving pretty quickly and then use that cash flow after a few months, and you can get another apartment or another house, another unit, get furniture for that one. So probably within the course of a year, you could have at least 2, if not more, if you had some money saved up. And it just snowballs from there. So it can grow very, very quickly. Now, since you might have to look in a different market from your own, you might have to get management. And I would almost suggest that you do get management, because these are very management intensive ventures. Short-term rentals require, cleaning, not just the property, but you gotta like turn over all the sheets and pillowcases and towels and stuff like that too. So there's a lot that goes into it. And you got the booking and checkout and all sorts of things. There's a lot of systems in place there, but there are companies like Evolve that can help, or Vacasa, I think, is another one that can help for a fee manage your property, and they manage almost nationwide, if not the entire US, and even some international properties as well. One last tip before I get into the final tip that I promised earlier is it's really important that you're looking at good locations. Either you want to be close to some amenities, like say a downtown area, something that's close to either businesses or entertainment, something that people will come in probably from out of town because they're going to stay the night or two, or that maybe host a lot of events. Maybe there's a conference center. Maybe there's a really large like industrial complex, a lot of businesses, or some large businesses where a lot of people are always coming into town for things like that. Maybe there is a university that brings in a lot of like sporting activities, or students that come in to check out the school, or if it's a large enough school, there might be a lot of people applying for staff or faculty roles, stuff like that. So you want to be close to areas like that. They're going to have good location. It could be a vacation area too, so maybe they have year-round vacation. That's the big thing to check on, is sometimes they're only going to be busy, say, 6 months out of the year. So make sure that you find somewhere, if it is a vacation area, that's going to have some sort of cash flow during the other 6 months, or they have other opportunities to get that rented for you during the off season. All right, so I promised you one tip with these. I think probably one of the biggest things you can do to help you get started is actually probably setting up an LLC. Now, if you're looking to get into real estate investing or into Airbnb arbitrage in general, you're probably going to want to get an LLC at some point anyway. It's nice to have an entity, offers some liability protection, and it gives you the option to say this when you are looking for a rental. You can go to the landlord, to the owner. You can say, look, I'm looking in your area. I saw your property. We're looking for corporate housing. Our business, LLC, is looking for, one or potentially multiple units to have to use for short-term rentals. And we just like to see if it would be a good fit. So in that case, it's not just, hey, I'm Joe Schmo and I want to try this arbitrage thing. You actually have some weight behind it when you say, hey, my company is looking for a corporate rental. So I think that's really important. Careful. It's really important to use words that will put the landlord at ease. And I'll sneak in one last quick tip here. You could also just point out to the landlord, like, look, I know that maybe you're not totally on board with the short-term rental thing, but let's look at it this way. This is going to get cleaned once, maybe twice a week. We're going to really make sure that our guests are receiving a high level of service here. And so even though there are going to be people in and out, the alternative could be you sign a 1-year lease with a tenant and you might not see the inside of the property for a year, then you go there and the place is trashed. So we want to make sure that this place is spick and span all the time, and that we operate in just an efficient manner and in a way that keeps the property really, up here. So anyway, that is my final tip. Let me know what you think about this strategy. I think it's super cool. I want to do it. I'm actually looking at some apartments this week to see if they make sense. So I will let you know how that goes, but drop a comment below and let me know what you think. Thanks for sticking around, guys. See ya.